Hi, welcome to a new vlog. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Leonor if you're new here, and this week I'm hoping to read The Thorns Remain by J.J.A. Harwood. It's a story, it's a kind of historical fiction, romance fantasy involving fae. It's set supposedly in northern England or maybe Scotland right after World War I, and a lot of the people in this little village have gone to war and everyone is moving away to the south and the cities to find work. And on a last night of revelry, a group of friends goes into the woods to dance and drink, and the fae come out and take them away. And so the main character has to save her friends by bargaining with a lord of fae. And there's romance. It's kind of like dark historical romance fantasy, and I'm quite excited to get to it. But I also want to continue with my light-hearted reads, obviously because we're in spring and I want to embrace it as much as possible, which I do think that this book will bring a bit of that, but in a darker way. It's still a darker fantasy. But yes, I'm also reading, or finish I should say, because I have started, That Time I Got Drunk and Saved the Demon by Kimberly Lemming, which is a Kindle Unlimited book that has been kind of doing the rounds on Bookstagram and BookTube and all the social media regarding books, and everyone has been finding it quite funny and light-hearted and a good kind of steamy romance fantasy, kind of cozy fantasy as well. I mean, all of the genres mixed in there, and I'm really enjoying it. I've read 50% of it throughout the last weeks. I haven't been consistently reading it. I've been dipping in and out because it has a few steamy scenes. It's quite awkward to read it in public. I only really read it when I'm falling asleep. The other day I was at work on my lunch break and I opened it and it was very graphic. Like the first line I said was so graphic, I almost choked on my food. So I immediately moved away from that book, opened up another, and just continued reading that one. And yes, I then obviously end up wanting to read the other book instead of continuing with this one. And so it's been a bit of a slow read, but I'm hoping to finish it this week, as well as continue to read the Stariel series, which I think I've mentioned before, especially on my wrap-up, my winter reads, because I read the first and I was reading the second one when I filmed that video. Oh, actually, I'm now onto the fourth one. I've been reading it on Audible. I normally put it on when I'm working right here on my desk, and so or doing things around the house, because they're around like 10 hours each. I have ended up reading a whole bunch of them just in a row, and they're super entertaining and actually very solid cozy fantasy books. They have intrigue, they have good characters and really rootable characters. It's a historical fiction as well, and it's quite fun. It has a lot of nature because they live in the countryside. It's just lovely and it feels springy, even though only the third and fourth book actually are set in spring. The first one is set in autumn and the second one is set in winter. I actually think they're the perfect cozy fantasy. They're one of the best ones I've read that are actually lighthearted. You do have those moments of fear for life, but you know that none of them are gonna die. But yeah, I've babbled enough, and I don't think I even gave you a synopsis. So obviously I have to give the synopsis of the first one. This follows a magical land on the north of this world, which is highly inspired by the UK. So you have the complicated politics between England and Scotland present in this book. So the lord of this magical estate has died, and there are three potential heirs, basically. This is a magical land that decides for itself which heir it wants to choose. And so you can groom how many people you want to be lord, but actually in the end the land will decide. It never chooses from the same generation, always the generations below. The first book is mostly between these five people. The main character, obviously, she got kind of exiled by her father because she wanted to study magic, and she has inherent magic, and so she left 6 years beforehand to study and live in a more southern city. Her brother is actually an academic that also left home to study, but has come back. And you also have their cousin, which has always lived there and is the one that has been trained by their father to inherit the estate. And so you have a bit of a rivalry, but also a lot of love between the three. Hatter hasn't seen for 6 years apart from her brother because he ended up visiting her a few times in the big city. And she also has her childhood friend, and her childhood crush makes an appearance. It's just honestly very lovely and intriguing and exciting. I gave the first one 4 stars. I gave the second one 3.75, and I gave the third one 4 stars again. So I'm really liking it. So I'm excited to continue. I'm almost more excited to continue that than to read this book, which I've been wanting to read for 2 months. But I'm now going to sit down and start reading this. But before I go, I also need to tell you what's going to be going on in this vlog and this week. Tomorrow we're going to Cambridge. Hopefully the weather will be nice because we're going to the Botanical Gardens to have a walk around and see the beginnings of spring. It's been relatively cold here. We did have a few nice days, but it's still cold. Like, I'm pretending I'm not cold with this thing, but I definitely am. I was wearing a cardigan over the top earlier, and I'm going to bundle myself with my blanket to read because it's definitely not warm enough to just be wearing this. Our only plans are really to go to the Botanical Gardens, but maybe we'll do something else. We'll see. See you later. guys, it's now the next day. I worked in the morning and I'm about to sit down and read for the evening, and hopefully this evening is going to be more successful than the day before Cambridge, because on that evening I ended up only reading 50 pages of The Thorns Remain. Quite enjoying it. The atmosphere is quite good and I do like the characters as well for now, but I don't have that much more to say because we're still just getting into the story. You know, 50 pages is not much. So I'm hoping to now sit down and continue on that. I think I was around 50% of that time I got drunk and saved a demon, and now I'm at 75% of the book. And I'm enjoying it. Definitely has its faults. Personally, too steamy for me, too kind of male dominant, really don't like the whole mating thing. I feel like the main character she likes some things that are personally a bit too possessive for me, and I feel like we have plot and then we have weird romantic moment and then we have plot and then we have weird romantic moment again, and that's kind of annoying me a bit and I don't really enjoy it. I think the reason why I'm not loving this book is the characters. If I love the characters, the rest wouldn't really matter, but because I'm not loving the characters, all of the other little issues are standing out, and I think the only reason why I'm still reading this book is that I'm enjoying how fun and quirky it is, and I don't hate the characters. Those are the only reasons I am still reading this book. I think that's all I have to say. Yeah, because I didn't really continue reading the audiobook either way as well. So my plan is to do a face mask this evening and just sit down with my book, most probably a tea as well as show you my dinner, because why not? You probably don't want to see me sit down and read and making tea again, because I show you at least 2 times every vlog. So I'm going to try and mix it up with the face mask, which I was going to do this evening either way, and making food. Hopefully you enjoy that. I did end up getting these beautiful earrings yesterday, which are 2 snowdrops, and I'm so happy with them. But yes, we had such a nice time yesterday in Cambridge and it just made me super excited for spring. Let's get into this evening because I'm ready to get cozy. I'll update you later on. Hi, welcome to the end of the vlog. It's been a few days because it did take me a bit to read The Thorns Remain. I think this book is really good, but it made me feel very depressed and sad, so it took me a while to get through it. I kind of was expecting it because of the setting. I was not expecting it to be so melancholic and just sad. As I said in the beginning, this is set right after World War I in a small village up in the Highlands of Scotland. I think it's the sort of book that I will still think about. Like, I still think about Gallant by V. Schwab. It was a good book, but it was so sad. I didn't like reading it. My reading experience wasn't great. Like, it wasn't great with this. Like, I felt depressed and sad and like I didn't want to pick it up, but it doesn't take away from the quality of the book. Personally, I don't feel comfortable reading it at this moment in time. It just makes me feel really low. It's a very good book, but just not for me at this point in time. I would have given it 4 stars at least if it didn't make me feel this way, and so I bumped it down to 3.5 stars, which I think it's solid. So I also read That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, and I did not enjoy that book. As I said in the beginning of this video, I was reading it slowly. It was a fun book. I enjoyed the characters. The setting was fun, but in general, it was pretty much a instant romance, which is one of the tropes that I hate the most in this world. By the end of the book, I mean, this is spoilers, but I don't think it really matters because you're kind of expecting it a bit. At the end of the book, they were married. Even though it's a 300-page book where there's an adventure, there's romance, there's friendship, there's just so much crammed into it in such a tiny book that everything happened so quickly. In 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks maybe, they're a married couple. Apart from that, there's also many steamy scenes, and this book just proved that I can like steam, but it has to be contained to 1 or 2 scenes a book. I ended up giving this book 2.5 stars, which is an okay book. The book isn't bad whatsoever. I just thought everything was too quick. It was fun. I mean, it was a good time, apart from the steamy scenes. But yes, I think that's all I have to say about this book. I've rambled on enough. I really wanted to have loved both of these books, actually, but unfortunately, that was not the case. I actually spent this whole week trying to get through these books while at the same time reading all of the Stariel books. I was already on the 4th one and I read that one. I also read the 5th one and I had the best time with those. I'll give a better review of those books on the other vlog that I filmed this week, the weekend vlog that's coming out after this one. And yes, this book is a really good book. I just wished I loved it. Like, it's the sort of book I love, you know, historical fiction, romance, a little bit of fantasy, a little bit dark. It feels like it's gonna be perfect for me, and then just made me feel depressed and really low, which is quite sad. And yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm very sorry about the computer sounds in the background right now. And I'll see you next week with another one. Bye!